and I have with me here Braham, who's our founder and chairman. Hi, Braham.
Hi, Geetha. Hi, everyone.
So, as Vadana being very much a research company, we do a lot of brainstorming, research discussions, research work, especially on the technology and innovation side. Our usual brainstormings and research discussions this time, as part of EcoConsortium's COP28 series, we decided to bring it on air. The first topic that we are going to discuss is navigating the carbon landscape with digital methodologies. So, Braham, digital methodologies is a topic that you're very, very passionate about.
Correct. Guilty.
Let's get to the basics now. Tell us what are methodologies and why do they matter?
Well, methodologies have got a history, and it begins with the Kyoto Protocol, right, where carbon was anointed a commodity. Carbon was never a commodity before that. In the Kyoto Protocol, one of the things which was instituted was to have carbon as a commodity which can then be traded, carbon credits issued and used to reduce emissions. However, the mitigation, the emission abatement, all of that was over a wide spectrum of applications. You had nature-based solutions, right? Reforestation, you had agricultural solutions. Then you had industrial solutions. Those days, the chemical industry was a big target, the CFC emissions, etc. So for each of these, there has to be a process, a protocol that then is followed for someone to claim carbon credits. These methodologies were then designed, drafted, and published by the UNFCCs under their CDM program. And they have been the basis, those methodologies which the UNFCC published at that time during the course of the CDM reign, so to speak, before Paris Accord. Those methodologies have stood the test of time and are solid processes for you to follow, to then show that you have got, you have achieved additionality, reduced emissions, and can legitimately claim carbon credits. So, if you're looking at reforestation, there's one methodology. Looking at methane reduction in rice transplantation, there is a second methodology. If you're looking at commercial buildings, how to reduce their emissions, there's another methodology.
So, and if I may ask you, how is the methodology approved?
In addition to the CDM methodologies that evolved from the CDM days, we also have various standard bodies, Vera, Gold Standard, Global Carbon Council, and Sir Carbonum, all of whom can do one of two things. They can either default to the CDM methodology and say, if it is a CDM methodology, we approve it. Or they can create their own methodologies or ask experts to create methodologies for them. That process is necessarily very stringent, especially if you're an approved standards body, and it involves a lot of process, a lot of questioning, and also peer review. So it's not easy, and it shouldn't be easy to get a methodology passed, because once it's passed and it's part of the inventory of methodologies of a particular standards body, then it better work, and it better work well.
So if there are several methodologies in place, why do some people allege that the carbon marketplace has credibility issues?
Well, first of all, if you were to look at the carbon trade, strictly speaking, it's got no more or less credibility issues as any other commodity marketplace. It's just that right now it's the focus of everything because of climate change. Right? But having said that, yes, there are issues, and they're primarily around the fact that these methodologies, however robust they are on paper, when you put them into practice, and you put them into practice manually, then things happen, conflicts of interest happen. Within a very short time after carbon was anointed as a commodity, you had a slew of scandals uh, where the issue of carbon credits was challenged because of uh, conflicts of interest primarily in the by the human beings, no other way to say it, by the human beings who come in to implement the process. There's always a conflict of interest, or there is frequently a conflict of interest, right? And that conflict of interest then creates a situation where you can challenge the credibility of the carbon credit issue. And this happened, and I don't know, I forget the date now, and that's why you had the first downturn in the carbon credit market when there was a scare amongst the buyers about the authenticity of carbon credits being issued. One could argue that that was the reason why, one of the reasons why we had to transition from Kyoto to the Paris Accord, where a whole new system, especially around Article 6, was then laid out to address these issues. However, they're not addressed. The issues are not addressed, and the manual processes continue. And you see, every now and then there's an article in either The Guardian or Bloomberg challenging the process and claiming that there has been fraud. This then impacts the market because then the buyers of the offsets start getting worried about being questioned on this, and the market suffers. All of this, in my opinion, is hugely unnecessary. There are solutions in place, but we seem to be delaying and delaying and delaying.
Are you suggesting that digital methodologies are the solutions, and why would they be different?
Well, it's not just me suggesting it. Better minds than mine have been battering away at the stakeholders and asking them to start not just looking at digital methodologies but implementing them. One of the biggest champions of this is the World Bank. So they have been championing digital methodologies and asking the community to deploy them. And I think the second question was
how would they be different, and what is stopping the market from going digital if so many people are already betting for it?
Well, I would I would give the market the benefit of the doubt and say that it is inertia, which is human tendency. Why something new when we have something in place already? The fact that something in place isn't working should be a signal that maybe we need something new. So in many cases, inertia, and then of course some people suggest, but I would be one of them, that is also vested interest. Today there is a vested interest in the status quo. Why change it? Right? I'll tell you why change it, because we are seeing an erosion of our credibility as a community. The carbon market is seeing a hit on its credibility, and if that's not a good enough reason to effect a change, then what is?
So you mean status quo, reluctance to change is a key factor for this?
Well,
and how do we deal with this whole problem?
I would have said that we deal with it in a measured way. We deal with it by making a case. We deal with it every time we have a climate conference. We bring up the topic. We soldier on. Except that I wish the climate change that's taking place would have the same patience and wait on us while we get our act together, but it's not waiting on us. There's am I being being too pessimistic when I say that I get a sense of impending doom when I see the science and I see what's telling me about what's happening to this planet? So I don't think we have the time to be measured in our approach, and I think the time is now for us to bring credibility back to the carbon trade, or let continue as we are going, and then keep telling people that carbon credits and offsets are essential, but no one is going to buy the story if we don't show them that it may be essential, yes, but there's also a proper way to do it with digital guardrails that preempt the kind of conflicts of interest that are taking place and eroding the credibility. So I don't think we can wait. Luckily enough, Geetha, luckily enough, there are the dynamic standard bodies, like I'll name two of them who I've interacted with, Global Carbon Council and Sir Carbon, who have taken the bull by the horns and said, okay, let's digitize. And their VVBs, the validation and verification bodies, also have been very encouraging in taking on the digital process. And you should know, you have been pioneering the digitization, of at least 2 or 3 methodologies, and the difference that makes to the process, where now I don't have to visit, if I'm a VVB, I don't have to visit that particular distant location to check on to do the validation, and then the verification. All of that happens now in an automated PDD, which is generated by AI, or subsequently periodic variance analysis that then shows me that that allows me to verify what's happening to the carbon credit claim versus the baseline. So all of that automated, me sitting in my room, being able to get that as a DVD, and being able to then also have an audit trail. If I suspect something or if I have a problem, there's an audit trail that will allow me to see right through to the end where the carbon credit generation is claimed, that the emission reduction is claimed. So it's a no-brainer. It just boggles the mind why anyone would object to this. And I don't think anyone is really. No one has admittedly said that, hey, we don't want to digitize. It's just that the pace at which it's being accepted is very slow.
So that means, I'm working, like you rightly said, it's also my personal target to get as many methodologies digitized as possible. We started with AMS 2E, now we are doing AMS 3C, we are doing variations of AMS 3C, so to tackle different industries. So it's so simple that by digitizing one methodology, we can cover a major segment or an asset class, isn't it?
So just to add to what Geetha said, when she mentions AMS2E and other names, those are CDM methodologies that she has taken and digitized, just to make the point.
Yeah, and we see how digitizing these methodologies have simplified the overall process. It have given more visibility, and adding blockchain to it and other technologies to it. You're adding immutability, traceability, tracking, and you're able to track it from the source of the data to the generation of carbon credits, right? So one question that I wanted to ask, which we already discussed a fair bit, is the benefits that digitizing a methodology would bring to the market. Can you give me the top 3 benefits that you will get by digitizing methodologies and taking a digital approach to methodologies?
That's like a top 3, you have to go through a test. Well, the first one, I think, is the elimination of manual data entry, or let's say the manual interference is minimized or eliminated. I've seen this in my work with data centers. I've built data centers across Asia, and I've found out that whenever, or at least in my experience, whenever there's a problem, whenever there is an outage, whenever there's an SLA breach, it's always due to us, human beings. And wherever we have managed to digitize the pain point and remove the human intervention from there, the problem is solved. The first thing is manual errors are reduced and eliminated. Another corollary of that, by removing the human element or reducing it, you also reduce the conflicts of interest, which has been the bane of this industry for a while, right? So removal of errors, elimination of errors, a reduction of errors, a reduction of conflicts of interest, time. Your carbon credit certification process need not take 2 years, because what normally you do is the validation is done and then you have to wait for the crediting year and for the verification to take place. If it's digitized, verification can take place every month, a variance analysis every month. So by the third or fourth month, the standards body and the VVB can see the carbon credit claim. Is it going in the right direction or not? You don't have to wait till the end of the year. This will speed up the process of certification. Last but not the least, costs. Sorry, you don't. I mean, by digitizing, the VVB now is spared the travel expenses, the hotel bills, so on and so forth, associated with going to a location, going to a carbon footprint and checking it out. Now he can check it out from his office over his any authorized smart device, or in some cases where there is a trusted connectivity between the digital service provider and the standard body or the VVB, you can also have the free two-way flow of data along with an audit trail. So with all these mechanisms in place, you have, just to recap quickly and see how good my memory is, you have reduction in human error, you have reduction in conflict of interest, you have savings in time, you have savings in money. So, it's like I said, it's a no-brainer, and it should have been adopted a long time ago. Digitization should have been adopted a long time ago. All the technology was in place. Blockchain, is no longer a new something new. And just to be very clear, the blockchain and crypto, two different things. People get confused with the two or use it to confuse others. Blockchain is a process that allows you to keep data immutably and transfer it to different stakeholders without any human intervention. And it's something worth having in the carbon code.
And the last point that I want to add, it is so much of fun digitizing methodologies. Like you see a paper, you see the first time I had a look at AMS2E, I read the paper a couple of times, and then that was, for me, it was a beautiful opportunity to digitize the whole thing. Then I had to go figure out ways in which I can automate all of that is written in the paper, which normally goes through very much a manual process. And I think, then now it's our challenge to digitize one methodology every month.
I don't know if you know that Geetha is Asia's #1 geek, which is why she's enjoying this methodology. But she's right. She's absolutely right. The pleasure of being able to see the results of the analytics that's been used by the AI engine from data collected right from the source, right? Without human intervention, and then seeing how it translates into a PDD, which is what the VVB uses to assess and validate. It's really a pleasure. She's absolutely right. It's brilliant. And it's not rocket science. Again, it's not rocket science. It's more a question of mindset rather than the availability of the right technical tools.
Right. So do you have any priorities on how to digitize, which methodologies to digitize? I want to ask your perspective, because I have my own perspective. I want to see what's the need of the hour in terms of digitizing methodologies.
So, Geetha, I think our priorities are similar. So, because of your team, when they go in to digitize a methodology, you would want to be as accurate as possible, right? So, an electrical or a mechanical piece of equipment lends itself better to measurement than a rainforest, by and large. So, the first step in digitizing methodologies is exactly what you did. You went after the methodologies which are purely connected to IoT sensors in electrical, mechanical equipment, so commercial buildings, data centers, um, electric vehicles, renewable energy plants, also waste energy plants. So all of this um, is where are the digital methodologies, are the methodologies, the CDM methodologies, just waiting to be digitized. It's just waiting, they're sitting there and saying, someone please digitize me. And that's what she's been doing. So that's number one. So I just listed out all the commercial methodologies that need waiting to be digitized, and quite a few of them she has digitized, which Geetha and her team. However, you also have nature-based solutions. Reforestation. You have the methane emission reduction in rice transplants. So all of this needs also to be digitized. Right now, that's where the problem is. If there is a credibility issue, it stems from nature-based solutions. Unfairly, I think, because people get stuck on the nitty-gritty and looking for the kind of perfection. If, by the way, if Wall Street and the money markets had that level of perfection, we wouldn't have had all the problems we have over there. So you are asking too much from a sector which is doing its best to deliver, right? So, however, having said that, admittedly, it could have done better. We could all have done better on the nature-based side. We now have satellites up there. We now have the technology to quite accurately measure and deliver digital methodologies as a very practical solution. You're not going to get the same empirical accuracy you get in commercial building. You can't. But you also have to understand that if there's even a 30% plus minus in nature-based solutions, it's fine, as long as you know it's 30% and you factor for that. And there's such a wealth of knowledge and experience in the standard bodies, in the VDPs, in the project developers. There's no reason why we can't have digitization with a plus or minus 30% and eliminate as much as possible manual intervention in nature-based solutions. That is something which has been done, by the way, by a few organizations, but still needs a lot of work.
Rightly said, Ram. If we look for perfection at the very beginning, it's very hard to achieve. It's an iterative process,
Absolutely.
Right? Cracking 70% of something on the first go is a great place to start. And then you iteratively improvise it and get to that 100%.
Correct. And we got to stop bashing the carbon markets willy-nilly. It seems to be a blood sport now. And for what? All it does is badly impact the climate, because let's be very clear. Carbon credits and offsets are absolutely essential to meeting our carbon neutral and carbon zero commitments. You just can't avoid it. It is an essential part of the whole ecosystem. What we can do is make it more accurate, right? And that's what this whole discussion we are having is about.
And then now coming back to the COP28 connection, what about the compliance market? Where can nations start?
Well, see, okay, so the compliance markets are doing very well in Europe, California, etc. What is not doing well is the NDC compliance, the nationally determined contributions, which is the emissions targets, emissions set by each country, getting that reduced and reporting on that to under the Paris rules. The countries should be focused on the emission reduction on meeting their NDC contribution. They shouldn't be wasting their time in managing spreadsheets and reporting on the carbon credits that have to be sold overseas, and then trying to do the corresponding adjustments or just giving up altogether. All of that can once again be automated and digitized, and that's another area where we all have to come together and set up and help the nations set up their national carbon registries, but make them digital national carbon registries that then do all this work in the background, allowing the people responsible for the NDC compliances to focus on emission reduction. And once again, I'm glad to say that this young lady here and her team have set up the platform in EcoConsortium to offer back office services to nations to help them automate and then run the automated platform with minimal effort from their side, so they then focus on their emission reduction responsibilities.
Thank you so much, Braham, for sharing your knowledge and your thoughts, your experience. Because you always have a different perspective. That's something that I like about you. You always see things through different eyes, I would say. We have to come to the end of this session, unfortunately, but we're going to talk more. We're going to discuss other topics, other equally important topics, how nations can come together through climate clubs, how can funds help, carbon funds help in this process, etc. We're going to talk about them in the next episodes. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, we have Braham Singh here. Please, on behalf of the audience, I'd like to thank you, Braham, for sharing your knowledge and experience with us. As always, it's a pleasure talking to you, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Geetha. It was fun. I can't wait for the next session that you arrange. Make sure I'm in it.
Yeah, I will. Thank you. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is Geetha Gopal signing off here from a very rainy Singapore. Apologies for the background noise, etc. We try to do our best. This is our first episode, so bear with us. I hope you found that useful. Thank you once again, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.